Hello everyone, Charles Coleman here, presenting to you my piece, Lux Brumalis, or in its English version, Winter Light. A piece I wrote for solo piano, which I just wrote in 2 days, and I finished yesterday. Woohoo! Why did I write this piece? Well, a couple of reasons. Number one, I want, this is November of 2023, and we're approaching the holidays, and therefore I wanted to write a quasi-seasonal work. And given the fact that we're dealing with a lot of terrible things and strife in Eastern Europe, in Gaza, and even here in this country, long story all around, I felt the need to write some kind of solace-minded piece to, music cannot cure all the ills of the world, but maybe it can help make people feel a little bit better, or maybe bring them together. I'm no expert on this, but I felt the need to write a solace type piece to somehow contribute to the best in humanity, if humanly possible. But another reason I wrote this piece was I recently became familiar with this guy, Ludovico Einaudi, one of the more successful living classical-based composers out there. He was even, I think in a couple of publications, he was listed as the most successful living classical composer. Speculative. But he has multiple millions of stream listens on the various networks. And while I enjoy listening to some of his music, it's not the kind of stuff that I write. My music is a little bit more wide-paleted, and he uses a more restrictive form and expression. I don't mean that as a criticism to him. It's just a kind of palette that he uses that gets his best music across, I guess. I am personally conflicted, but maybe that's more of an issue with me. Maybe I'm a bit of a snob or slightly jealous because he's doing very, very well. Mind you, he's been around for a while. He's written film scores and he has been generally successful, but his piano music has taken notice with everyone, in particular these days, and it's very pleasurable to listen to, and it's often played in coffee shops or restaurants. But what got me interested in writing a piece of a similar ilk was after watching a video by this guy, David Bruce, who's a wonderful composer. His music is very charming and witty, and he does these wonderful YouTube videos talking about certain pieces, certain composers. He even did a great video about the issue of copyright in the world of streaming that we're dealing with right now. But he just did this video entitled, "Is Einaudi's Music Actually Good?" Obviously, he is conflicted about the music of Ludovico Einaudi as I am, and this general subgenre of the classical world in which certain composers have chosen to write in a more restrictive, less dramatic, comfortable sounding music. Maybe there are better terms to put it. Composers like Carl Jenkins or Max Richter or Alma Deutscher, which is another issue right there. Again, I will talk about her at some point in future presentations. But Ludovico Einaudi is considered by many to be at the top of this genre as far as writing very comfortable sounding music, quasi-easy listening, a kind of subcategory of the classical world that was started years ago when you hear Charlotte Church, Andrea Bocelli, Sarah Brightman, and all that kind of stuff. It's very distinctive sounding. You know it when you hear it. And David Bruce did this video where he decided to listen to only the music of Einaudi for about a full week, exploring the kind of man he was, what he was going for in all of his works, and particularly in his piano pieces. And then David decided to write his own piano piece in an Einaudi style, a piece he wrote called Field, which is, and I got to say, he got the style down. He wanted to see what he could feel, that he could appreciate from what Einaudi goes for in all the pieces he writes. And it's a charming video. There's a link in the description for you to check out. And you should look at David Bruce's videos in general. He's just a great, great YouTuber and a great composer. So I wanted to see if I could write a piece of a similar ilk. although I wasn't quite as successful as David Bruce was in writing an Einaudi style piece. But I wanted to see if I can somehow let the style of Einaudi influence me in a subliminal way, and yet I still subconsciously hold on to the kind of values I hold in myself every time I write a piece. Now, granted, most classical music is not so much meant for background. It usually doesn't work. 99% of all classical music is very inconsistent. It changes a lot. Dynamic, key, orchestration, texture, and it's written in a way that it's usually meant to be listened to more specifically. Generally, one of the issues of why classical music in general is not played in a cafe or a restaurant is because it changes a lot. And, you know, I love Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, but I'm not sure I'd want to hear it in a restaurant or a cafe. So nonetheless, I want to see if I can write a more, for lack of a better term, accessible piece of music. I hate that word, accessible. Of course, I'm biased because I'm a classical bass composer, but I still want to see if I could write a more restrained and not as aggressive piece of music as I am apt to do. Not that I don't think my music is that aggressive in general, but it is more aggressive than certainly Einaudi or any pop consistent type piece. So I attempted to write this work after listening to a little bit of Einaudi myself, and while I think I was successful in utilizing some aspects of Einaudi's influence, I couldn't do fully what David Bruce did in his video, which is to write an Einaudi piece. I'm not a big fan of writing in a rigid style in which the meter and the keys are predictable, typical 4-chord sequence, and arpeggiated figures that display the meter, do 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 like that, and it play that consistently throughout. I think it happens in a few spots in this piece that I wrote, but it's very ambiguous. It has, in my mind, hopefully a beautiful ambiguity that would keep the listener intrigued. And yet, I'm wondering if it could also work as a piece that you can hear while you're having your coffee or your wine. I have no idea. This is a totally subjective experiment, but I like what I wrote nonetheless, and I'm curious what you think about it. So here it is, Lux Brumalis by yours truly.